The stars were always there. For as long as humans could remember, they looked up at the night sky and dreamed. But for most of human history, those dreams stayed just that. Dreams. Earth was a blue dot spinning in space, one of many planets, orbiting a single star among billions. And for a very long time, no one else noticed it. But that changed. It started with a small team of scientists on Mars, not the flashy ones with big names or billion-dollar budgets. These were the quiet ones, the ones who worked late, didn't talk much to the press, and just wanted answers. They weren't trying to make history. They were trying to solve a problem. How to travel faster than light without tearing the universe apart. That problem had been around for centuries. Every other species out there had found a way to move between stars, but none of them shared how. Humans had tried everything: wormholes, warp drives, quantum slips, but nothing stuck. Until now, Dr. Lisa Martinez led the project. She wasn't famous, she never gave interviews, but she was smart, really smart. Her team built something called an artificial singularity drive. It used a tiny black hole, carefully controlled, to bend space around a ship instead of pushing through it. It was risky, dangerous even, but it worked. The first test was simple. A small probe jumped from Mars orbit to a point near Neptune, then back again. No one said much when it returned, just data, numbers. But those numbers told a clear story. Humanity had just broken the light speed barrier, and they did it quietly. No parades, no speeches, no news headlines, just a report filed under Project Horizon, buried deep in UEG, United Earth Government Archives. But once you open a door like that, you can't close it again. Within a year, the UEG had quietly begun building ships, real ones, not just probes, big ships, fast ships, ships that could carry people across the stars. They didn't announce it. They didn't want attention, because they knew what would happen if someone else found out. Space was not empty. There were others out there, many others, some friendly, most not, and none of them liked surprises. So Earth played it cool. They built stations in the dark places, places where no one else went, places far beyond the reach of known systems. They mined asteroids, tested weapons, trained pilots, all while pretending. They were still just sending rovers to Europa and building better satellites. Jake Carter was one of the first soldiers sent to these new outposts. He used to be a Marine. Now he was something else, something new. He didn't know what his job really was at first. All he knew was that he got shipped off to a place called Station Epsilon. Floating in the cold silence between Jupiter and Saturn, it was quiet, too quiet. When he arrived, he saw the truth. This wasn't just a base. This was a fortress. Big guns, hidden launch pads, fighters docked in secret bays. People moved fast, talked low, and kept their eyes on the sky. Jake wasn't alone. There were others. Soldiers, engineers, scientists. Some wore uniforms, others didn't. Everyone had secrets. His commander, Commander Rayner, pulled him aside the first day. "We're not here for show," Rayner said. "We're here because we have to be." Jake asked what that meant. Rayner just looked at him and said, "You'll find out soon enough." And he did. One night, while on patrol in a small scout craft, Jake picked up a signal. Not from Earth, not from any human station. It was alien. The voice was distorted, but the meaning was clear. "Identify yourself." Jake didn't answer. He turned off all non-essential systems and went dark. The signal came again. Closer this time. Ship appeared on radar, big, fast, not human. Jake's hands tightened on the controls. He had trained for this. Sort of. He hit the emergency recall button. Station Epsilon lit up behind him, launching 2 fighters. The alien ship hovered for a moment, then vanished. Just like that. No attack, no warning, just gone. Back at the station, everyone was on edge. Commander Rayner looked tired. "You saw it?" Jake nodded. "They've been sniffing around for weeks," Rayner said. We didn't think they'd get this close." "Who are they?" Jake asked. Rayner shook his head. "Not sure. Probably Cathari scouts or maybe Virex slavers. Either way, they don't belong here." Jake didn't sleep that night. He thought about the stars, about how big they were, how full of things humans had never seen, and how easy it would be to disappear into them. Weeks passed, then months. Earth kept building. Quietly. More ships, more stations. More soldiers like Jake. They weren't just exploring anymore, they were preparing, because someone out there had noticed. And when you rise too fast, too quietly, someone always comes looking. On a distant moon orbiting a gas giant, a different kind of meeting was happening, not on Earth, not by humans. In a dimly lit chamber carved into the rock, 5 figures sat around a table. They were not all the same species. One had skin like polished stone. Another pulsed with bioluminescent light. Another wore a suit that hummed softly with energy fields. They spoke in clicks, hums, and translated voices. "The humans," one said. "They have made the jump." Another responded quietly, too quietly. "They must be watched," said a third. "No," said the fourth. "They must be stopped." The 5th figure, cloaked in shadow, said nothing, but its presence was enough. The meeting ended. Orders were sent. Scouts were dispatched. The galaxy had a new player, and the old players didn't like that. Back on Earth, life went on. People woke up, went to work, watched TV, complained about taxes. None of them knew what was happening out there. And that was exactly what the UEG wanted, because if people knew, they might panic. Or worse, they might ask questions. Questions like, why are we building warships? Why are we sending soldiers into deep space? What happens when someone finds us? But the truth was simple. Humanity had taken the leap. And once you jump, you can't go back. You either fly or fall. It started with a ship. Big, strange, not human. It appeared near Earth orbit like it had always been there. Silent, watching. No one saw it come in, no warning, no signal. Just there. The United Earth government scrambled to respond. Military. Bases lit up. Fighters launched. Stations went dark. Everyone waited. Would it attack? Would it speak? Would it leave? They didn't have to wait long. A message came through, not in any human language, but translated fast by AI systems. "You are not listed. Identify." That was all. Not a threat, not a greeting, just a demand. Back in Geneva, at the UEG headquarters, Ambassador Karen Ellis sat at the center of a war room filled with people watching screens, maps, and reports. She was calm. She had to be. This was her job now. Karen wasn't a soldier. She didn't carry a gun or fly ships. She talked. That's what she did best. Talk. And right now, that was the most important thing. She stood up and looked at the faces around the table. "We need to answer," she said. "Should we lie?" someone asked. "No," she said. "We tell the truth. Just not all of it," so they sent a reply. "We are humanity. We are new to this space. We mean no harm." Simple. Honest. But careful. The alien ship responded. "Why are you here?" That was harder to answer, because the truth was, humans were everywhere now, quietly, in hidden places, on far moons, in deep space stations, but they hadn't told anyone until now. Jake Carter was still on Station Epsilon when the news came in. He was eating lunch when Commander Rayner walked in and shut off the lights. All the screens turned on. Images of the alien ship. Reports from Earth, translations of messages. Jake looked up. "They know," he said. Rayner nodded. "Yeah, they know." Jake didn't say anything else. He just stared at the screen. He knew what this meant. Everything they had built. Everything they had hidden. It was out now. There was no going back. Back on Earth, the UEG called an emergency meeting. Karen sat across from 5 other ambassadors, all from different countries, all confused. "What do we do?" one asked. "We talk," Karen said. To who? To them. She got ready for the first real contact between humans and another species. She didn't know if they would shake hands or point guns, but she had to try. When Karen met the alien envoy, she expected something strange. She got more than that. The being stood tall, covered in smooth armor that shifted colors like water. Its eyes glowed softly. It didn't blink. Behind it stood 2 guards. Tall, silent, armed. Karen wore a simple suit. Her badge said, United Earth Diplomatic Corps. She held no weapon. They met in a floating station above Earth. The alien spoke first. You expanded into Cathari space. Karen blinked. I'm sorry, she said. You took planets, systems, you built colonies, without asking. Karen looked at her notes. We believed those systems were unclaimed, she said carefully. They were not. She paused. We can discuss this, she said. There is nothing to discuss, the alien said. You broke the rules. Karen tried again. We didn't know. We're new to this part of space. We want peace. The alien tilted its head. Peace, it said. Peace is not given. It is earned. Then it left. No handshake, no smile, no warning, just gone. After the meeting, Karen returned to Geneva. She was tired, angry, worried. She sat down with General Marcus Hale, one of the leaders of the Earth's military. They think we stole their land, she said. They might be right, Hale said. Karen looked at him. We thought it was empty. Hale shook his head. Doesn't matter what we thought. What matters is what they believe. Karen leaned forward. We can fix this. Hale looked at her. How? We apologize. We offer talks. We show them we're not enemies. Hale smiled without humor. They don't care about apologies. They care about power. Karen frowned. So what do you suggest? Hale didn't hesitate. We prepare. Jake got the order a week later. Report to Earth. He arrived at a base he'd never seen before. Big, hidden under mountains. Inside, soldiers trained hard. Pilots flew simulators. Engineers built weapons. Jake found Commander Rayner waiting for him. You're moving up, Rayner said. To where? To the Deep Response Fleet. Jake raised an eyebrow. That's new? It is, Rayner said. And it's real. Jake followed him inside a control room. On the screen, images of ships, big ones, fast ones. One stood out, a sleek warship. Dark, built for speed and stealth. Meet the Freedom, Rayner said. Jake stared. You're giving me a ship? You're getting one, Rayner said. We're going to need good pilots, good leaders. Jake didn't ask why. He already knew. Things were changing. Fast. The next few weeks passed quickly. Karen worked nonstop. Meetings, talks, messages. But the Cathari weren't interested. They sent warnings, strong ones. Leave our space, or face consequences. Earth refused. They offered trade, technology, peace. The Cathari ignored them. Instead, they sent ships, patrols, scouts, fighters. They hovered near human colonies, watching, waiting, testing. Then it happened, a skirmish. Near a mining station called Delta 9, a Cathari patrol ship approached. Ordered the humans to shut down operations. The humans refused. The Cathari fired. The humans fired back. It was short, messy, chaotic. The Cathari ship escaped. So did the humans. But the message was clear. This wasn't just talk anymore. It was war. Jake was on the Freedom when the call came in. Cathari forces engaged near Delta 9, requesting backup. He didn't wait for orders. He gave them himself. Within minutes, the Freedom jumped into action. Jake led a small fleet. 3 fighters, 1 destroyer. They arrived late. The battle was over. Smoke floated in space. Wreckage drifted slowly. Jake scanned the damage. Is anyone alive? He asked. Some, came the reply. We're picking them up, Jake looked at the enemy ship. It was gone. But the message it left behind was loud. Humans were not welcome. Not yet. Back on Earth, the UEG made a decision. They couldn't hide anymore. They couldn't pretend they were just explorers. They needed to get serious. So they did. They announced a new defense plan. More ships, more weapons, more training. They called it Operation Dawn Shield. Karen tried to stop it. She argued for diplomacy. But she was outvoted. The military had taken control. Because now Earth wasn't just reaching for the stars. It was preparing to fight for them. Jake read the report on the way back to Earth. His fingers tightened around the tablet. He wasn't angry. He was focused. He looked out the window. Stars stretched past the hull. He thought about the alien ship, about the shot it fired, about the lives it took. He whispered to himself, "They want to fight?" He smiled. "We'll give them one." In the deep dark of space, a Cathari commander watched the data come in. Reports of human ships, human weapons, human courage. He read the numbers. He studied the losses. He turned to his second in command. "They fight well," he said. The second nodded. "But they are few." The commander looked at the stars. For now, Karen sat alone in her office. She looked at the sky. She thought about what could have been. Peace. Trade. Understanding. Now it was all about power. She picked up her pen, wrote a note. "We didn't ask for this, but we will finish it." She folded the paper, put it in her pocket, then stood up. Time to work, time to fight, time to protect Earth, even if it meant war. The galaxy was watching now. Not just the Cathari. Others too. Some were curious. Some were scared. A few were already making plans. Because when a new species rises fast, it shakes the balance. And balance is what keeps the stars from burning. Jake Carter stood on the bridge of the Freedom, staring out at the black. They had just returned from a patrol near Colony Theta 3 Low. It was a small world, rocky, cold, with a thin sky. But for humans, it was home. It wasn't safe anymore. Cathari ships had been seen nearby, not attacking, yet, just circling, watching, waiting. Jake didn't like that. He turned to his XO, Lieutenant Dana Fields. "They're getting closer," he said. She nodded. "I know. We got a signal from Earth. They want us back." Jake frowned. "Why?" Dana looked down. "There's talk. Big talk." Jake raised an eyebrow. "What kind?" She hesitated. "About alliances." Back on Earth, Karen Ellis sat in a room full of people she didn't trust. Most of them wore uniforms. Some wore robes. A few didn't look human at all. They were diplomats, advisors, spies, and one of them was probably lying. Karen sipped her coffee. She had been called here by the UEG to lead something new, a diplomatic task force. Her job? Make friends. Real ones. Not just humans pretending to be friendly. She looked around the table. "We need allies," she said. General Hale leaned back in his chair. "We don't need friends," he said. "We need weapons." Karen shook her head. "We can't win this alone." Hale smirked. "We've done fine so far." Karen stared at him. "That's not winning. That's surviving." Silence filled the room. Then someone else spoke. "I think she's right." It was Ambassador Liu. He pushed a file across the table. "This species," he said, "the Narrow Union. They're smart, small fleet, but fast. And they hate the Cathari." Karen read the file. She smiled. "Good enough for me." The Narel were not like the Cathari. They weren't tall, or armored, or scary. They were short, fast, smart. Their ships looked fragile, but they moved like ghosts, and they didn't like being told what to do. That made them perfect for humans. Karen traveled to their space to meet them. It was the first time a human diplomat had ever gone that far. She arrived on a ship called the Liberty, escorted by 2 fighters. When she stepped off the ramp, she saw them. Dozens of Narel standing in neat lines. They had big eyes, long limbs, skin that shimmered in the light. One stepped forward. His name was Vextal. He tilted his head. You are human? Karen smiled. Yes. Vextal looked confused. You smell strange. Karen laughed. That's okay. You don't look like I expected either. Vextal blinked slowly. Then he smiled. You have courage. Karen nodded. And we need help. Vextal studied her. You are fighting the Cathari. We are. He paused. They tried to take our homeworld once. Karen nodded. They might try again. Vextal looked at his people. Then back at Karen. If you fight them, he said, we will fight with you. Karen held out her hand. Vextal took it. The alliance was born. Jake heard the news while fixing his fighter. He was under the engine, covered in grease when Dana walked in. Guess. What? She said. Jake grunted. Can't be worse than this oil leak. Dana grinned. We've got backup. Jake looked up. From who? The Narelle. Jake blinked. Who? Dana rolled her eyes. A new ally. They're joining the fight. Jake wiped his hands. Well, about damn time. He stood up. Let's see what they can do. The first joint mission was simple. Rescue. A human colony had been taken over by slavers from the Virex Compact. They were brutal, ruthless, traitors of pain. The humans had sent warnings. The Virex ignored them, so Earth made a choice. No more talking. Time for action. Karen helped plan the mission. Jake led it. With the Freedom and 3 Narelle ships, they jumped into the system. No noise, no signal, just silence. They found the colony, surrounded by Virex ships, big, armed, dangerous. Jake looked at the screen. Looks like a party. Dana checked the sensors. 3 enemy cruisers, 2 dropships, heavy ground presence. Jake grinned. Perfect. He turned to the crew. All right, let's show them what happens when you mess with humans. The attack was fast, narrow. Ships darted through the battlefield like lightning. Human fighters followed close behind. Lasers lit up the sky. Explosions echoed through the void. Jake flew straight into the chaos. He fired, dodged, fired again. 1 Virex. Cruiser exploded. Another lost power. The 3rd tried to retreat. Jake chased it. He locked on, fired. Missiles hit. The cruiser broke apart. Jake looked around. Status? Dana answered. Enemy fleet breaking up. Ground forces retreating. Jake smiled. Good. He turned to the rescue team. Get those people out. They saved almost everyone. The survivors were tired, scared, but alive. As they boarded the Freedom, one man looked at Jake. You came for us, he said. Jake nodded. Always. The man reached out. Jake shook his hand. Then the man whispered, Thank you. Jake let go. No thanks needed, he said. We're not done yet. Back in space, the Narelle commander spoke to Jake. You fight well, he said. Jake grinned. So do you. The Narelle nodded. We make good partners. Jake looked at the stars. Yeah, we do. On Earth, the rescue became a symbol. Proof that humanity could fight, could win, could stand with others. Karen used the victory to push for more alliances, more talks, more deals. But not everyone was happy. In the shadows, old powers watched. The Cathari were not the only ones who ruled the stars. There were others, older, smarter, more dangerous, and they did not like what they saw. Humans rising, friends joining, battles won. That was not supposed to happen, not to a species that had just learned how to fly. Jake sat alone in his quarters. He looked at the stars outside his window. Thoughts ran through his head. He remembered the first time he saw alien, fire. The first time he saw a friend die. The first time he realized this wasn't just a mission. This was war, and it was only beginning. Karen stood in front of the UEG Council. Behind her, a screen showed images of the rescue, of the Narelle ships, of the Freedom. She turned to the leaders. This proves we can win, she said. General Hale crossed his arms. For now. Karen looked at him. We're not just surviving anymore. Hale didn't answer. But he didn't have to. Everyone knew the truth. Humanity had taken its place among the stars. And now the galaxy would learn what that meant. In deep space, a message was sent, not by humans, not by Narell, by someone else, someone older. The message was short. The humans rise too fast. They must be stopped. Before it's too late. Jake got the message hours later. He read it on the screen. Didn't flinch, didn't blink, just looked at the stars and said, "Try and stop us." It started with a fire, not on Earth, not even on a human world, but on a Cathari station near the edge of known space. The Veyral Prime Station was one of their largest, a hub for trade, politics, and military movement. It floated like a jewel in the dark until it exploded. No warning, no signal, just silence, then light, then death. Millions were gone in seconds, and all eyes turned to humanity, because the evidence said so. Jake Carter sat in the mess hall of the Freedom, eating cold noodles when the alert came in. He didn't finish his food. He followed Dana Fields to the bridge. On the screen, reports, images, data, a message from Earth blinked red. Cathari claim we attacked their station. Jake looked at Dana. "We didn't," she said. "I know," Jake said, "but someone wants them to think we did." Dana nodded. This was a setup. Jake stared at the screen. "Then we need to find out who did." Back on Earth, Karen Ellis stood in a room filled with angry voices. The UEG Council had called an emergency meeting. General Hale paced. "This is bad," he said. "Real bad." Karen tried to speak. "They're blaming us without proof." Hale pointed at her. "That doesn't matter. They believe it." Another council member spoke. "What do we do?" Karen took a deep breath. "We prove the truth." Silence filled the room. Then Hale laughed. "You think the truth matters here? You think they care if we did it or not?" Karen looked at him. "They should." Hale shook his head. "No. They want blood. And if we don't give them something, they'll take everything." Karen stepped forward. "Then we show them we're not just a target." She turned to the others. "We investigate. We find who really did this, and we expose them." Some nodded. Others looked unsure, but no one disagreed. Jake got the order within hours. Track any signs of false flag activity. He read it twice, then smiled. "This is what I do best." He gathered his team, Dana, pilot Royce, tech expert Mia. They left the fleet behind, went dark, went hunting. The trail led to a place few ships ever went. A dead system. Empty stars. Ruined planets. The kind of place ghosts lived. Jake's ship dropped out of FTL. Silence filled the cabin. Then Mia spoke. "I'm picking up old signals. Not from us, not from the Cathari." Jake leaned closer. "Who then?" Mia frowned. "These are from the Virex." Jake's face hardened. "The slavers?" Mia nodded. "And someone else." She played the signal. It wasn't much. Just a voice, but the accent was clear. Cathari, but not military, political. Jake looked at Dana. "This wasn't the Cathari government," he said. "It was someone inside it." Dana nodded slowly. "A faction, trying to start a war." Jake stood up. "Well, we just found the match that lit the fire." Back on Earth, Karen worked fast. She sent messages, called in favors. Used every contact she had. She needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. And she found it. Hidden in old data logs from neutral stations. Secret messages between rogue Cathari leaders and the Virex Compact. Plans, dates, targets, all pointing to the Veyral Prime Station. Karen printed it, posted it, sent it to every species in the galaxy, and waited. The response was slow, but real. Some believed her, some didn't. But now, doubt had been planted. The Cathari weren't united anymore. Some questioned their own leaders. Some asked questions they hadn't before. And for the first time since the attack, the blame wasn't only on humans. Jake returned to the fleet. With more than just data, he brought anger and a plan. "We can't wait for politics," he told his crew. "We have to hit back." Dana raised an eyebrow. "Hit who?" Jake looked at the map. "The Virex." Royce whistled. "They're everywhere." Jake nodded. "Exactly why we hit them where they least expect it." He pointed to a system far from the front lines. "Here. This Virex base. It's small, hidden, but it's connected to everything." Mia studied the layout. "It's a command post." Jake grinned. "Then let's knock it down." The mission was risky. No backup, no support. Just the Freedom and 2 Narell ships. They jumped into the system under full stealth. No lights, no signals, just silence. They approached the Virex base quietly. It hovered above a broken moon. Armed turrets lined its hull. Scanners swept the sky. Jake flew low, used the moon's gravity to hide his approach. Then he struck. Lasers lit up the dark. Missiles screamed through space. The Narell ships flanked the enemy, firing fast and hard. Jake dove straight into the heart of the base. He locked onto the central node. Fired. The explosion tore through the structure. Fire spread. Systems failed. Within minutes, the base was gone. Jake pulled up, looked at the wreckage. Target destroyed. His voice was calm, like he'd done it 100 times. Maybe he had. Back on Earth, Karen watched the news. The Virex base was gone, their network was damaged, and the truth about the false flag was spreading. The Cathari were split. Some still wanted war. But others? They wanted peace. Or at least a pause. Karen knew this was a chance, a small one, but enough. She reached out to the moderates, offered talks, peace, trade, security. She gave them a choice. Fight a war they might lose, or make a deal they could win. Some refused, but some agreed, and that was enough. For now. Jake returned to the fleet tired but proud. He walked through the halls of the Yeo, Freedom. People looked at him differently now, not just as a pilot, as a leader, as someone who fought for something bigger. He passed by a group of soldiers. One of them, a young woman named Lena, saluted him. He nodded. She smiled, then whispered, "Thanks for coming back." Jake kept walking, didn't look back, but he heard her and he smiled. In the deep dark of space, a Cathari commander stared at the stars. He held a report. It showed the damage, the losses, the lies. He closed the file, turned to his second-in-command. "We were wrong," he said. The other Cathari looked confused. To go to war with humans now would be a mistake. The second hesitated. "But our leaders..." The commander cut him off. "Our leaders made this mess." He looked out the window, at the stars. At least the humans fight with honor. He turned away. "There may come a day when we must fight. Them." He paused. "But not today." Karen sat alone in her office. She looked at the latest message from the Cathari moderates, a single line. "We are willing to talk." She smiled, then wrote her reply. "So are we." Jake stood on the bridge. The Freedom was docked at a new human station, floating in the middle of nowhere. Safe. For now. He looked at the stars. Thoughts ran through his head. About the people he lost, the friends who were still alive. The war, that wasn't over, he whispered to himself. "We didn't ask for this." Then louder. "But we'll finish it." The war had spread like fire. What started as a quiet leap into space had turned into a full-scale conflict across the stars. The Cathari were not alone in their fight against humanity. Other species joined, some out of fear, others for power. Earth was no longer just defending itself, it was fighting to survive. Jake Carter stood on the bridge of the Freedom, watching the battle unfold on the screen. Ships clashed in deep space. Explosions lit up the dark. Fighters darted between wreckage like insects. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just watched. This was it. The turning point. Behind him, Dana Fields gave reports. "Narrow ships are holding the line," she said. "But we're losing ground on the outer ring." Jake nodded. "We knew this wouldn't be easy." Dana looked at him. "We're outnumbered." Jake smiled. "Yeah, but they don't know what we're made of." Back on Earth, Karen Ellis sat in a dimly lit room filled with tension. The UEG Council had been arguing for hours. Some wanted peace talks, others wanted to keep fighting. No one agreed. Karen finally stood up. "They want us broken," she said. "They want us scared." She looked around the table. "But we are not broken, and we are not scared." General Hale leaned forward. "What do you suggest?" Karen took a deep breath. "We finish this." Silence followed. Then someone asked, "How?" Karen pointed at the map on the wall. "Their command node is on their homeworld. If we disable it, we can cut off their control over the fleet." Hale frowned. "You want to strike at their core?" Karen nodded. "Yes." Hale studied her. "That's suicide." Karen didn't look away. "Or it's victory." Jake got the order 2 days later. "Prepare for Operation Black Dawn." He read it once, smiled, then called his crew together. "We're going in." Dana raised an eyebrow. "To the Cathari capital system?" Jake nodded. "Yep." Royce, the pilot, let out a low whistle. "That's deep." Jake walked to the center of the room. "We've come too far to stop now." Mia, the tech expert, crossed her arms. "How many ships are we taking?" Jake looked at the list. 3. The Freedom, 2 Narell stealth carriers. Dana frowned. "That's it?" Jake grinned. "That's all we need." The mission began under cover of night. Not on Earth. In space. They jumped into FTL near the edge of the Cathari system. Silent. Fast. No signal. No noise. Just darkness. As they approached the planet, the real challenge began. Cathari defenses were strong. Heavy patrols. Advanced sensors. One mistake, and they would be torn apart. Jake led from the front. He flew through asteroid fields, used gravity slingshots, dodged enemy fighters. They reached the inner system without being seen. Then they struck. Hard, fast, without mercy. The Cathari command node was buried deep underground, protected by layers of shields and security. But Jake had a plan. The Freedom would draw attention from above while the Narell ships dropped a team inside. Jake went with them. So did Dana. They landed near the base, fought their way inside. Lasers flashed, smoke filled the halls, bodies fell. Jake moved fast, shot clean, never stopped. They reached the core. A massive machine hummed with power. Jake looked at Mia. "Can you shut it down?" Mia grinned. "I was born for this." She worked fast. Wires, codes, systems. 5 minutes. That's all it took. The lights flickered, then died. The core was dead. Jake looked at Dana. "Let's get out." Back in orbit, the Cathari fleet began to break apart. Without central control, their ships lost coordination. Some tried to flee, others surrendered. The tide had turned. The war was over. Jake returned to Earth a hero. But he didn't act like one. He walked off the ship like any other soldier. Didn't wave. Didn't smile, just walked. Dana followed. "You could have stayed up there," she said. "Got a medal, a speech." Jake shook his head. "Not my style." Dana smirked. Still the same old Carter. Jake looked at the sky. "No, not anymore." Karen stood in front of the UEG Council. Behind her, a large screen showed images from the battle. "Victory. Peace, hope." She spoke clearly. "The war is over." The room was silent. Then General Hale stood up. "You think they'll just forget this?" Karen looked at him. "No, but they'll remember what we did." She paused. "We didn't start this, but we finished it." Hale studied her. Then slowly, he nodded. "I believe you." Karen smiled. "That's enough." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The Cathari signed a peace treaty with Earth. The Narel became close allies. Other species reached out, offering trade, technology, friendship. Earth was no longer just a new player. It was a force. Not because it was the strongest, but because it was different. Humans didn't just take. They built. They fought. They survived. And now they thrived. Jake retired to a quiet moon colony, far from Earth, far from war. He lived in a small house on the edge of a forest. Every day he woke up early, drank coffee, watched the sun rise. Sometimes he thought about the battles, the friends who didn't make it back, the lives lost. But he also thought about the future, about what they had built, what they had won. He never told anyone, but sometimes late at night, he'd sit outside and look at the stars and whisper, "We didn't ask for this, but we finished it." Karen stayed in politics. She became the first human envoy to the Galactic Core. Her job was hard, talks, treaties, negotiations, but she loved it. Because now humans had a voice, a place, a future. She often looked at the sky and remembered how it all began, with a quiet leap, with brave people, with a war they didn't want, but one they had to fight. She wrote a letter once, to everyone who served, everyone who believed, everyone who stood tall when the stars came crashing down. She ended it with one line: "We didn't ask for this galaxy, but we'll make sure it has a future." In the deep silence of space, a Cathari commander stared at Earth on his screen. His name was Tavak. Once he wanted to destroy humanity. Now, he respected them. His second-in-command asked, "What? Now?" Tavak looked at the stars. "We learn from them." The younger Cathari blinked. "They beat us." Tavak smiled. "And still they offered peace." He turned to his officer. "They are not our enemies anymore." He paused. "They are our equals." The stars were no longer empty. They were full of life, full of hope, full of humans, and for the first time in history, the galaxy belonged to more than just the old powers. It belonged to those who dared to reach, who dared to rise, who dared to fight and win.